couple of moments of fun. Not for me at the time, but when I look back, it was. One of these was mosquito bites. Got bitten so many times, and especially in the convict ward. And this day, the servitor gave me some stuff called Odemos, just in a tube, which I used to put on when I got bit, and it worked. Anyway, one morning I got up, and this is in between June and July of 2004. I'd got myself a toothbrush. Up until then I was using neem sticks from the neem tree to clean my teeth. But I eventually got a toothbrush. So gets my toothbrush, goes outside, puts it on, brushing away. And within minutes I'm reaching and coughing. And I'd realised I'd put Odemos on my toothbrush instead of toothpaste. The servitor saw me heaving and reaching, and all he could do was just laugh. He gave me some lemon. He said, "Suck this lemon." So I sucked this lemon to take this taste away, and eventually it went. And that was when I look back, I can see myself now out in the ward, just coughing and heaving. Anyway, I got some Cool Guard off a foreigner, and this would help with prickly heat. And prickly heat is like little red lumps that come up over your body in between the folds of your skin and whatever, and it would drive you mad. So you'd just put this powder on, and it would ease it off. So this day I thought, I'm going to put some around me bits, cool me bits down, you know. So got this powder, shook it down into my underpants like, and for about 10 seconds, everything felt nice and cool. And then the heat came. At the same time, somebody within the cell had had a 2-litre jug of dahlia, which is like rice pudding. Anyway, I'm stood in the middle of the cell, right? Pulled me shorts down, pulled me pants down, and I'm holding on to me bits, and I'm thinking, God, what's going on? I thought they were going to burn off. And as I'm hopping round the cell, I stick my foot into this jug of dahlia, and the next thing, there's dahlia all over the cell, everywhere. And at the same time, the servitor walks in, and he sees me stood there, clutching my bits with dahlia all over the floor, and he looked so solemn at me. He just shook his head, went out. And the next thing, I've got a bucket of water, and I'm squatting over this water with me bits soaking in it to ease it off. And at the time, it was extremely painful. Looking back, it was so funny. It was just so funny. Anyway, I don't know why these things come up. I've no idea. So I goes round to Ward 2 this day, sitting with a couple of foreigners, and I hadn't had a smoke for a few days, so I was ready for a smoke of anything, you know. And I was with a couple of Italian inmates, lovely guys, typical Italian, but lovely, lovely guys. And they made a spliff, and I smoked this spliff with them, and wow, man, I was trashed. Seriously. And I said, look, I got to go back to my ward. I need to have a lie down, like. So I goes back to my cell as I lie down, and I fell asleep at some point, not for long, maybe half an hour or so, and I woke up, and I needed the toilet badly. So I went to the toilet in the inside cell where it's just a metal plate and you put 2 feet, you put your feet on, you squat down and you do your business. Understand I'm still stoned at this time. So I'm there, and as I'm doing this, I just fall backwards. And as I fall backwards, I'm covered in shit. It's all over me. And as I'm struggling, my feet slide and I fall forward. So I'm just totally, all the front of me, I was just covered in shit. And I don't know what, Ashok, I think his name was, the servitor, I can't really remember. He came in and he looked at me and he said, "What are you doing?" Like, in his way. And I said, and he just laughed and he went out. And that was that. So one morning, and this was about 6:30, we'd had out tea, and one of the convicts that was in the inside cell with us, Sanjay, I think his name was, nice guy, and he said, "Steve, you smoke?" I went, "Yeah, man." So I made a biddy out of chewing tobacco and tea leaves, and we sat there having a quick puff like, and the head Saab comes in and catches us, and he's just about to give this guy a beating like, and I just jumped up in front of him and said, "Head Saab, me." I said, "My biddy, not this man." And he looked at me, and I actually showed him my tobacco. And he said, "Not this man?" I went, "No." I said, "Me." I said, "Me?" I just back. And he just walked out and left us alone. And later on, of course, this lad that was saved from getting a slap like, he told basically everybody in the ward what had happened. And these people were coming up to me and saying, "Hero, hero." And I says, "No hero, no hero." You know, I mean, you got to do the right thing, no? And then the servitor came up to me and he went, "Stefan, apagal," which means, "You're stupid." And he patted me on the back and said, "Let's go." And we went inside and then we had another biddy. This is what my life was like in Tihar. It was like you're totally living in the unknown every day. You just have no idea what's going to go down, what's going to happen. All you know is tea comes at 6 o'clock, food comes at 9 o'clock in the morning, tea in the afternoon, and food about 4 o'clock. And that's as much as you know. Everything else, whatever comes, comes. On one of these rare occasions, I decided I'd have some dal, which is lentils. This little bowl, I had 2 of these. One was for dal, one was for rice, which I'd stopped having rice a long time ago. But that's my plate, for want of a better word. So, about 12:30, they come into the cell and they lay paper out on the floor, get their dal and their rice and their sabji, the boiled vegetables, and I'm given this bowl of dal. And I'm just about to eat it. We have plastic spoons. I was just about to put a mouthful in my mouth, and one of the guys in the cell just grabbed my hand and went, "No." Why not? And he got my spoon and he just tipped my dal out, just tipped it out into where you do your toilet and all this, and there was maggots in it. And that day there was riots in Central Jail number 3 because it was across all the jail. So that day, or that afternoon, nobody had Dal. And they had a lockdown on this as well, like. It was serious because people, you know, they like their food. Simple as that. They like their food. And that really put me off Dal. I don't think I touched Dal for a year or so after that. And that's how it was. Oh. I'm going to skip a load of stuff because I could talk so much about things, but in July, I'm waiting. I've got a month to go, and then I can go into the into Ward 2. This day, a doctor was convicted, came into the ward, and he burnt his wife. Just burnt her to death. Some kind of Indian thing that goes on. I can't remember what it was called. Anyway, his English was perfect. And previously, a couple of days before, I was walking round to the hospital, and both my knees were clicking, right? And I mean, really, like every step I took, it was like click, 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 click. And the pain, God, I was glad to get back to my cell. So when this doctor came, I spoke to him, and his English was perfect. And I said, have a look at my knees, will you? I said, because I'm getting so much pain with these. And he had a little feel round, you know. And he said, I think you've got osteoarthritis. I said, osteoarthritis? He says, you need to go to the hospital and speak to the doctor and get an x-ray. I said, okay. Next day, goes to the hospital, sees one of the doctors. There's usually 3 of them sat in an office, not doing too much, talking, reading newspapers and all this. And I explained to him, I said, look, I'm 54 years of age, and I've seen a doctor in our convict ward, and he believes I've got osteoarthritis, and he told me I need an x-ray. And this doctor looked me straight in the face. He says, you are not 54 and you do not need an x-ray. So I flipped. Instantly it was a flip. And I said, hey man, if you don't get me to have an x-ray, I'll just report you to the British consulate for not looking after foreigners. And straight away he relented. He said, come back tomorrow. Goes back the next day, gets an x-ray. And sure enough, according to the doctor, I have osteoarthritis in both knees. The left knee was worse than the right, but there it was. He said, you have to go for therapy. I said, okay. And this was within the hospital grounds, if you like. So I goes into this room, and I sees this guy, and he says, come with me. And there's a tank, right? And it's about, I don't know, 2.5 feet long by about 18 inches, 20 inches wide, and about 2 feet deep. And it's half full of molten wax. And I had to put both my legs over this tank, and the guy gives me a ladle, and I have to ladle this wax over my knees. And I had to do this for about 10 minutes. So I'm pouring this wax over my knees, and it was hot, but it didn't hurt, if you like. And of course, after some time, it was about this thick on my knees. And then I had to sit there for 15 minutes. And then I was given a scraper, for want of a better word. And then I had to scrape all this wax off. And afterwards, for a few hours, I felt no pain. It was great. I did this for a month. And after that, I had more treatment. I had electric pads put onto my knees. The bottom line, in the end, I stopped going because the pain just wouldn't go away. Anyway, August comes and I get transferred into Ward 2. I goes to see Lando and he says, "Come on, Steve, I've prepared a fatter for you, a bed." So he goes in and him and Lenny were in the inside cell and I was in the outside cell with another one or two guys, I can't remember now. And he'd set me up in the corner. He'd put application paper, he'd stuck it all round the wall, into the corner and round the wall. And my space was about 20 inches wide. And he gave me like a bed, but it was about this thick. It wasn't very thick. And at some time it would be pumped up to about that thick, but it was busted. But it didn't matter. I had something that was soft that I could actually lie on instead of a blanket and concrete. And he gave me a mosquito net. Man, I thought I was in heaven. I honestly thought, my life can't get no better, you know? And that night, I got seriously wasted with Lando and Lenny. And this guy, he would have food delivered in from an outside restaurant twice a week. And for twice a week, I was eating proper vegetable food, real pucker food, you know. But I could only eat very, very small amounts. And Lando used to nag me, he says, "Steve, you got to eat more, you have to." And I said, "Look, man, I can't. I just can't." And that's how it was from that point onwards. The mental pain had sort of reduced 80%. The physical pain I could deal with. There were days I couldn't get off my fatter. I couldn't walk. The pain in my knees was just too much. And I would just stay in the cell, simple as that. And it was like this well into 2005. Well into 2005, I put up with this. Eventually, I cured it. And I'll talk about that next time. Please, if you like this, give me a thumbs up and any kind of comments. I welcome comments. I want people to enjoy what I'm doing. And eventually, at some point, I want them to see why I've done these videos and to take the benefit that I got. Thanks. Next time.